And can Aaron Rodgers provide more to this offense than what Russell Wilson did? I absolutely think he can do that. There is a team that is, I think, getting really disrespected this offseason. I get it. Some of the moves were questionable this offseason, but I'm actually very high on this team, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I actually think their roster is very talented, right? I don't think that they're going to be different this year because of Aaron Rodgers. I do think Aaron Rodgers is a much better quarterback than Russell Wilson. Even at this stage of his career, I just don't think Russell Wilson really provides much as a quarterback. I do think that Aaron Rodgers, there is a element that he provides that Russell Wilson just doesn't. But when I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm looking at this defense. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have maybe the best defense in the league. At least they have the best defensive front in the league. I mean, you talk about Herbing, Highsmith, Watt, Harmon, the first round pick that they drafted. I'm very high on him. Keanu Benton, Cam Hayward. They have so much talent on that defensive line. I think that this is the best defensive line in the league. I think their linebackers are really damn good as well with Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen. I think their secondary is pretty solid. And obviously, we know how the Pittsburgh Steelers play defense. They play it at a very high level. And I expect that they're going to do the same this upcoming season. Where I think the difference could be in this football team is going to be they have to be better offensively, right? And can Aaron Rodgers provide more to this offense than what Russell Wilson did? I absolutely think he can do that. And I do think that, their offense, they actually do have weapons on this offense. It's just kind of a little different than what you would expect from maybe when you see the Cincinnati Bengals, where they're able to line up in 11 personnel and just kill you in 11 personnel. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, when they get into their 12 personnel looks, are going to be dangerous because they have two tight ends that I think are very, very good tight ends. They have Freiermuth and they have Jonnu Smith, two tight ends that I think are very, very good. And then they have DK Metcalf on the outside. And Roman Wilson, we'll see what happens in year 2. Calvin Austin, we got to see. And I'm actually a little higher on their offensive line than most people. I think it's a really young offensive line, but there's some players that I really like on it. I'm a big fan of Zach Frazier. He had a very impressive rookie year. Isaac Seumalo has always been a very steady veteran. McCormick is a second-year player. We'll see what happens there. Troy Fatanu at right tackle, second-year player. I was very high on him coming out of the draft. Didn't have a great rookie season, but going into his second year, I think you'll see a better performance from him. Broderick Jones at left tackle. He's going into his third year. We'll see what happens. I mean, he's only 24 years old, right? So he's still a young player. We'll see what happens with that offensive line. If they can be a good offensive line and they give Aaron Rodgers time to throw the football and they can run the ball effectively, I think offensively they will be a lot better than they were last year. And I do think that when you look at Aaron Rodgers, what is he going to be able to provide to this offense? He's going to be able to play within structure. If you give him a clean pocket, he's going to be able to shred defenses. I think still he's going to be able to deliver the ball on time. Pre-snap, he's going to make all the right reads. I'm very high on this team going into this year. Now, what is the ceiling for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year? I think they can make the AFC Championship game, but some things have to go their way, right? So I think the path to getting out of the first round for them, they got to get that 5th seed. Right? Because if you're one of these 6th or 7th seeds, now you're dealing with Baltimore, now you're dealing with Buffalo, now you're dealing with Kansas City. And I just think those 3 teams for the foreseeable future are going to be teams that get to the second round and make it to the divisional round. I think for the foreseeable future, they're going to be the three of the 4 teams in the divisional round. To me, Pittsburgh's got to deal with teams like, the Broncos and the Chargers and teams like that. Can they compete with those teams for that 5th seed? Yeah, I think they can do that. Absolutely. I think that their team is that good. I think their defense is that good, right? So That's going to be their path. They got to hope that things go their way. They got to be able to stay healthy. They, you never wish for injuries upon other team, but they happen, and teams don't feel sorry for other teams if they have injuries because other teams have injuries as well. So if they get that type of path, yeah, I think they can make a conference championship game appearance. But, you kind of ask yourself, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, is that enough? Is that enough if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers? And that's a question that they have to ask themselves, but they have to really hope that things go their way. But unfortunately for the AFC, if you're a team not named Kansas City, Buffalo, or Baltimore, I kind of feel like that's the way it's going to be for the foreseeable future here. You got to kind of hope that you're that fourth team in the divisional round, and you got to hope that you get that fifth seed, especially if you're playing in the AFC North, where I don't think they're going to win that division, just because I think Baltimore is too good of a team. But again, you kind of have to hope that things break your way if you're Pittsburgh. And, if they're able to break their way, yeah, absolutely. I think that Pittsburgh can make something happen here. Now, when it comes to Pittsburgh, yeah, they're going to have to rely on a lot of these young players playing at a high level. When you talk about Derek Carman, when you talk about, the young offensive linemen that they've drafted over the past few years here, when you talk about Roman Wilson, he's going to have to take a step up this year. Not all those guys are going to take that step, but I think you're hoping that at least half of those guys take a step forward. And if they do, I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are absolutely going to be a team to be reckoned with. And when you look at their division, obviously you have Baltimore. I'm picking them to win that division. But are they better than the Cleveland Browns? Absolutely. Are they better than the Cincinnati Bengals? I think so, even though Cincinnati has a really good quarterback. And obviously they have those receivers. Their defense is atrocious. And I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, when they play Cincinnati, I expect them to win at least one of those games, if not both of them, because I do think their defense is good enough to neutralize that offense. And when you look at the Bengals defense, they're not good at all. So I think that the Steelers can move the ball on that defense. And I think that that's ultimately what's going to come down to them getting second place in the division and being able to make the playoffs. So, I know it's cool to crap on the Steelers because it's a big brand and Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback and they made a few questionable decisions. But I think that ultimately some of those decisions that they made that people look at as questionable, it's going to go in their favor. Now, you don't like that they lost George Pickens. I think that that is a loss for them. But, you replace him with DK Metcalf. What's the drop-off there? I don't think it's massive. I think that there is a slight drop-off. I think George Pickens is a better receiver than DK Metcalf. But when you add Jonnu Smith, when I think losing Najee Harris and more so forcing the ball into Jaylen Warren's hands more often, I think that they're going to have a much better run game than they've had in years past, because I think they're going to be able to be a more explosive run game, especially with the fact that they drafted Caleb Johnson this past year. Yeah, I'm very high on the Steelers going in this year. I think that this is an 11, 12 win football team, and I do think that they have a chance to make it far into the AFC playoffs here. But